She was still alive when the rope burned through her skin. Not alive in the way people usually mean it. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't fighting. She was only breathing, short, broken pulls of air, while the summer grass cut into her back and the sun baked her blood into the dirt beneath her. One leg was twisted wrong, trapped in a loop of coarse rope that had been dragged so hard it stripped the cloth clean from her calf. The fibers bit into her skin like teeth. The other leg lay useless, dust-caked and shaking, refusing to obey her anymore. Her ribs felt crushed inward. Every breath came with a wet rattle that scared her more than the pain. Her hip burned so deeply she could not tell where pain ended and damage began. Her name was Laya Monroe. She was 21 years old. And if nothing stopped soon, she was going to die right there on the prairie, where the land didn't care enough to notice. The last thing she remembered clearly was the sound of hooves behind her. Not fast. Not rushed. Slow. Patient. The kind of sound that told her whoever rode that horse already knew she couldn't outrun him. He had known it from the moment he started following. She remembered hands closing around her ankle. Fingers hard and sure. A laugh close to her ear. A voice telling her to stop pretending this wasn't the law. Telling her that running only made things worse. Then the rope went tight. It only lasted seconds. Maybe half a minute. Long enough to ruin her. Not long enough to finish her. The horse spooked at something, wind, shadow, instinct. The pull changed. That was the only reason she was still breathing when the world finally stopped spinning. Laya had kicked and twisted until something in her hip screamed and the world went white. She bit the rope until her mouth filled with dirt and blood. She clawed at the grass until her fingers split somewhere in the middle of it all. Then her voice ran out. Fear does that sometimes. It burns through words first. By the time the rope loosened, she was barely conscious. That was when the shadow fell over her. At first, she thought it was him again. The same weight in the air. The same threat pressing down without touch. Her body locked in reflex. Her heart tried to tear its way out of her chest. She waited for the pull. It didn't come. Instead, there was a pause. A stillness that felt wrong in a different way. A silence that didn't belong to fear. A man stood over her with the sun at his back. Elias Caldwell. 49 years old. Broad-shouldered. Weathered by years of dust and decisions. Gray threaded through his temples. The kind of man whose posture said he was used to standing between trouble and something weaker than himself. He hadn't worn a badge in years, but the habit of it still lived in him. It showed in the way his eyes scanned the ground before he moved. In the way he took in the rope first, then the bruises, then the way her chest barely rose. He didn't swear. He didn't shout. He dropped to one knee. Laya's eye fluttered open. Her vision swam. The world came in broken pieces, a hat brim, a weathered hand, the flash of steel as a knife slid free of its sheath. Panic slammed through what little strength she had left. No, she tried to say. It came out like air leaking through torn cloth. Eli's voice reached her, low and steady. The way men speak to frightened animals and wounded people. Calm not because danger was gone, but because panic would only make it worse. Easy, he said. I got you. She didn't believe him. She had heard men say that before. The knife moved to the rope. Hooves sounded faint on the wind. Hurry, she whispered. Do it. Eli didn't rush. Even with danger moving toward them, his hand stayed precise. He braced her ankle with one hand and sliced the rope with the other. One clean cut. Then another. The loop fell away, leaving raw skin and a deep purple groove like a brand burned into her leg. He kept his grip steady so her leg wouldn't jerk the wrong way. When the last strand dropped free, he slid his arm under her knee and held her still. Laya sobbed, just once. More sound than tears. You're safe for this minute, he said quietly. That's all I promise. The grass moved on the rise behind them. Eli made a decision without saying it out loud. He lifted her like she weighed nothing and carried her low through the grass, keeping his body between her and the sound. His horse waited where he had left it, reins loose, ears flicking. Eli settled her into the saddle with a gentleness that didn't match the violence she had known moments before. He mounted behind her and turned off the trail, angling toward land that folded and dipped enough to hide them. Only when the hooves faded did Laya realize she was shaking. She sagged back against his chest. Don't take me back, she whispered. Back where? He asked. Dodge City. The name landed heavy. Eli knew Dodge City. He knew the men who wore law like a costume. He knew what happened to girls who learned things they were not supposed to hear. He guided the horse toward his ranch near Fort Dodge, far enough from town that the noise of it couldn't reach. Close enough that trouble sometimes wandered in anyway. Behind them, somewhere on the prairie, a man with a badge would realize his rope had gone slack. And when that man came looking, Elias Caldwell would have to choose. The ranch wasn't much. A small weathered house. A leaning corral. One cottonwood tree that had seen better years. Eli brought her water. Cleaned the rope burn. Checked the swelling. Listened to her breathing. He didn't ask questions. That mattered more than he knew. Inside, the house smelled of coffee and dust and old wood. He set her on the bed in the spare room and stepped back, giving her space like it was something she owned. That was when the shaking started. It came hard. Sudden. Like her body had been waiting for quiet. Eli noticed anyway. He sat by the window, facing out, like he was standing guard even without a badge. I won't take you back, he said finally. But I need to know why. Laya told him. About the saloon. About listening when men thought she didn't matter. About cattle brands, seized horses, money that shouldn't exist. Then she said the name that made him turn. Roar Madsen. A deputy who smiled too easily and listened to the wrong people. She showed him the paper she had stolen. That's trouble, Eli said. The kind that doesn't stop looking. That night, the knock came. Slow. Confident. Sheriff business, a man called. Eli opened the door just enough. Deputy Roar Madsen smiled like an old friend. The lie didn't hold. The fight was short and ugly. Wood cracked. A lantern fell. A gun skidded into the dirt. Madsen backed away bleeding, smiling like a knife sliding back into its sheath. This isn't over, he said. No, Eli replied. It isn't. They left before sunrise. Shots found them by the creek bed. Not deputies. Hired men. Paid fear. Eli bled but didn't stop. They reached Fort Dodge by mid-morning and put the truth in the hands of a marshal who believed patterns more than promises. Names came out. Harlan Voss. Big cattle money. Bigger land. The man behind the rope. Madsen was arrested. Tried. Convicted. Voss didn't fall. Not yet. Back at the ranch, days slowed. Laya healed. Learned safe silences. Learned that courage wasn't loud. A letter arrived. Polite. Dangerous. They didn't answer it. When the wedding came, it wasn't a spectacle. No crowd. No pretending. Just two people choosing each other without shrinking. Laya became Mrs. Caldwell without losing herself. Eli didn't become a hero again. He became something quieter. Harder to break. And that is where this story ends, not because the world was fixed, but because one honest choice was enough to change a life.